Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'll be telling you guys my honest opinion about Ausmat. To tell you guys a little bit about myself, I was an Ausmat student, which is an Australian matriculation student at Sunway College. The duration of my course was around 9 to 10 months, so if you guys are interested in studying in Ausmat, or if you just want a little bit more input about various pre-universities, I'm here to tell you guys. So today, we will be covering the program details, and then we'll also be talking about the structure and how we feel about it. I'll also be explaining the subjects that I took and what I think is the biggest benefit of Ausmat, the grading system of Ausmat, why I love Ausmat, what I struggled with Ausmat, what I learned from Ausmat, as well as whether I recommend this course. So if you guys are interested in skipping several parts, then just refer to the timestamps. So let's start with the program details. Usually Ausmat is around a 1-year program, and its assessments and examinations is basically 50% school-based, which is internal, and 50% external examinations. Some of the entry requirements, they include having, if you're SPM level or O levels, you just need a pass with 5 credits, and it has to include English. If you are in UEC, you have to pass with a minimum of 3 Bs, including English. Other than that, some English language requirements for IELTS is a minimum score of 5.5, writing is a minimum score of 5.5, and the band score is minimum of 5.5 or equivalent. So Ausmat students are actually required to select 5 subjects, 5 HR subjects, or they can have 4 HR subjects and 1 general subjects. As long as you have 4 8R subjects, that's fine. So these are the subjects that Ausmat will usually provide. There's actually a really wide range of subjects, so if you guys are interested in trying different kinds of subjects, then feel free to choose Ausmat. Now I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about the structure of Ausmat and also how I feel about it. So I did say that it's a 50-50 structure, which means that it's 50% internal assessments and 50% external examinations. However, most of these internal assessments are actually mostly tests for me. I actually only had around 3 written assignments, and all of my tests were individual work. It was not group work at all. Well, we are sitting for quizzes and tests. I actually added up all of my tests in the end, all of my little internal tests, and it actually added up to 44 in total in the span of 9 months. The fact that we only had around 9 to 10 months, and the last few months were actually just preparing for our external examinations, we actually only had around 8 months to learn the entire syllabus as well as performing all of these tests. So every single one of these tests will actually contribute to your final HR. I guess there is an upside and a downside to this, because if you do badly in a single test, you actually have a lot more chances to make up to it. But bear in mind that every single grade actually contributes to your NATAR. Not to mention there's also a lot of emotional stress because we're constantly having examinations as well. There's no way that these 9 months will be perfect in your life because we're human after all, so we still have to factor in all of these little things in our life as well as having Ausmat to add on to that. Factoring out all of the holidays, we actually have at least 1 to 2 tests a week and at most around 4 tests. And we also have midterms as well as finals, and it's known as our EE, our evaluation exam, and our FE, our final exam. This is also different for multiple institutions, but for Sunway, this is what we have. The other 50%, which is our external examination known as WACE, W-A-C-E, it actually felt similar to SPM because we actually have external examiners from Australia itself, and we are just being assessed by the entire syllabus in Ausmat. I can't speak for everyone, but I can give you guys a little bit of input for the subjects that I took in Ausmat. So I took 5 ATAR subjects. I took ELD, which is English as an additional language. I took BME, which is Business Enterprise, MAM Maths Methods, Chemistry, and Human Biology. If we break it down to these 5 subjects, let me just tell you guys one by one. For English, ELD, I actually suffered quite a bit at the beginning due to the format. In the Australian syllabus is actually pretty different compared to what we've learned in Malaysia throughout these few years. We've always taught certain formats, but in Ausmat itself, it's basically what Australian students were brought up to learn. I have a few Australian friends and they have told me that they have learned the things that I've been learning and they've been helping me adjust to the format. But basically to them, it's kind of like the norm since they've been doing it since day one. So it's a little bit hard for us to adjust. So my English grades were flopping a little bit at first, but now it's still okay. Business was actually really interesting to me. This might vary since some of my friends found it a little bit more difficult since it needed quite a bit of memorizing skills and application skills. But to me, I got to sort of adjust to it a little bit easier because I got to take examples from the environment around me. And it actually made me learn a lot more about business since I was previously a full science student. Maths methods to me was easier to understand compared to maths in high school. This was because the range of maths, the applications that we use, was actually slightly smaller compared to SPM, although we learned more. But for example, in SPM we learned sin, cos, tan, right? But in Ausmat, we actually just prioritize sin and cos. So you kind of get the idea about that. And for chemistry, it was pretty similar comparing to SPM. We just went even more in depth with it. It was a little bit harder because it kind of needed a bit more understanding as well as memorizing skills. So I did suffer a little bit more when all of the tests were compiled together, but the small tests were slightly more manageable. If you're interested in chemistry and you find it really fun, you might still have a little bit of a challenge because of how much information it is packed into this little few months. So just bear in mind about that. For human biology, fun fact, this is actually my 5th subject, so I didn't put so much prioritizing to it in my external examination, but throughout the course, I actually really enjoyed it. I got to learn a lot more things compared to what we learned in high school because in Malaysian high school, they teach us about plants. But in Ausmat, it's mainly about humans, about evolution. It was really interesting. But just for me, it's a little bit hard for me to pick up because there was so much memorizing. We had 13 chapters that we have to memorize in the span of 9 months. I would like to tell you guys the biggest benefits of Ausmat. Ausmat is actually globally recognized and it is slightly cheaper compared to A-levels. So if you are thinking of going overseas, Ausmat is actually a pretty good decision. But the thing is that this is where your homework comes into play because every single university, the prerequisite for Ausmat really varies, especially considering which country you want to go to. So you have to bear that in mind and really do your homework, understand the prerequisites before you enter or you try to apply for the universities. This also applies for different courses because, for example, for computer science, they might need you to take maths methods instead of maths applications. Some science subjects, they actually need you to choose chemistry. So it really depends on what you want to study and where you want to go to really look and do your own homework and digging into that information. For example, the ATAR prerequisites for certain universities are pretty manageable. For example, if you want to go to Malaysia, if you're already studying Malaysia, it's around 80 ATAR or 70 plus ATAR depending on your course and which school you want to go to. So it's pretty manageable compared to if you want to go to a UK university. Some of it actually ranges from 90 plus ATAR, and I've seen some courses that needed like 98, 99 ATAR to be the bare minimum to even enter the course. So you have to be a little bit more careful with that. Some Australian universities also vary depending on if they are a top university or if they are a more normal university. It really depends, so you have to do your own homework, okay? You will regret it if you don't. So you have to take the prerequisites of whichever subjects that you want to go to depending on your course, and also see the ATAR prerequisites for whatever you wish to go to. Some you might want to consider A levels instead of Ausmat just because the prerequisite might be a little bit easier. Okay, now about the grading system about Ausmat. Why would I say that sometimes you might want to consider taking A levels instead of Ausmat? It's actually because of the grading system. It's slightly different compared to A levels. Ausmat actually uses the grading system called ATAR, ATAR, which means we use the ATAR to get into specific universities. You might have seen me talk about this just now, but I'll explain to you guys what ATAR really is. The thing about the Australian grading system, which is ATAR, we actually use comparison. So it actually compares you to your peers. For example, if you have 95 ATAR, you're actually the top 5% of people who took WACE, which is the Western Australian Certificate. This is slightly different from what us Malaysians usually know. We usually count our results in high school based on prorata, which is our average, and we count all the subjects and we divide by the amount of subjects that we took. Or for SPM, we just looked at the grade for each subject and we look at the bell curve, right? But for Ausmat, it compares you to the people around you depending on how high they score or how difficult the particular subject was, how difficult the examination paper was. So it's pretty varied. Some people might see this as kind of unfair, but to me it just depends on the grading system itself. Bear in mind that ATAR only takes the top four ATAR subjects. So if you take a general subject, they won't really consider that particular subject. But if you're like me and you took 5 ATAR subjects, they will only take the top 4. But all subjects, the grades of the subjects will actually appear. So if you need that particular grade as a prerequisite, for example, you have 5 ATAR subjects and you take the top 4, but your prerequisite is the 5th one, they'll still look at the grade of the subjects. So don't worry about that. I think one of the worries about having ATAR as a prerequisite is that it's generally very much harder to get scholarships. Most scholarships, they range from 95 to 99 point something, depending on where you want to go. And I've seen a lot of schools that they only accept scholarships that had 98 ATAR and above, so you have to factor that in your choice as well. What did I love about Ausmat? Ausmat is actually the reason why I am way more clear towards my future career and my study path, because I could try out a variety of subjects that I couldn't try out in my high school, in Malaysian high schools. So instead of taking workshops, I could just go to Ausmat and try out these subjects. And there were also a lot of workshops that they provided in Ausmat itself, so that was really helpful. I could tell what I really liked and what I did not like as well. The lectures in my college actually really inspired me and guided me a lot throughout this course. They would always tell me, just tease me or give me a phone call, I'll be there for you regardless if it's emotional stress or if it's something that I don't understand in the syllabus. They were just always there for me, so that was something that I really loved as well. I am actually the most grateful for the people that I've met in Ausmat. Sure, this course has pushed me and made me work harder and made me a more organized person overall. However, I've learned a lot of inner values due to every single soul that I've met in Ausmat. They really make me feel at home. What did I struggle with in Ausmat? I was the president of the Ausmat Student Council, so there was a lot of time management needed since Ausmat itself is already a very congested course. So it's actually mostly due to its short time frame, because the syllabus itself was average to difficult, but more average, but because of how congested it was and how many tests it had, that's why it made Ausmat a little bit more stressful for the students. Other than that, I actually felt very anxious receiving every single test result. As I stated before, I had 44 tests, and every single time I received the test result, I had the same amount of anxiousness. But to be honest, I did reach out to my lecturers and friends to voice out my worries, and they helped me grow a lot as a person. Right now, I already know that I can balance my personal life as well as the stress from my studies or my work. So I felt a lot more relaxed. It is true that these 9 months have been a total ride. I've never felt so disconnected with my family because I barely had any time to spend with them. Can you imagine? I'm from an Asian household and they're telling me to stop studying. This is because I really don't have much time to talk to them anymore. This is due to constant studying and exam stress. I barely left my exam room. So I would totally wish to have more time with them because time with your loved ones is really irreplaceable, right? What did I learn from Ausmat? I think that time management and perseverance is definitely on the top of the list. I've lost so much quality time, as I stated just now, because of this course since the schedule was so tight. I spent every single weekend trying to finish my assignments and studies, so it was really difficult for me to learn how to balance my personal life. But it's not like I didn't gain anything. In fact, I felt like a much more mentally stronger person after this course. I've had a lot of support throughout this course, whether it's from my lecturers, friends, or family. I've learned how to control myself, my emotions, prioritize what I really want to achieve in life, and continuously work towards my goals. Finding a balance in life is essential as the destination is not as important as the journey. I really thank Ausmat for teaching me that. Every single step I took in Ausmat, in this journey throughout Ausmat, has taught me a lot more than just my end ATAR. Trust me. Failures actually teach you a lot more than success. My mom told me you can only improve if you are challenged. An ore will forever stay a stone if left untouched, but can be a precious gem as long as it goes through knives. Ausmat can be a little bit tough at first, but I seriously think I really grew as a person and I became a much stronger individual. Are you glad that you took Ausmat and do you recommend this course? Now, I'm sure I've expressed enough of my gratitude towards this course. I am very grateful to have the chance to experience Ausmat, and I was lucky enough to have met so many gems along the way. They are the ones that molded me into the person that I am today. To think that this channel wouldn't even exist if I didn't enter Ausmat. However, everyone's experience in Ausmat is definitely different. So if you are thinking of taking this course, do consider your finance and also where you want to study at in the future. Also, if you are looking for scholarships in the future, because the scholarship prerequisite for Ausmat is very much high. If you want to go global, this is definitely a cheaper choice compared to A-levels. But it also depends on where you want to go to, as certain universities, it's easier for A-levels to get in compared to Ausmat. It is also slightly draining as it is a lot more compact as we have to adjust to the new format very fast, and you would definitely come out of this course as a completely different person. But know your limits and trust yourself. Personally, I think that if you are looking towards a university in Australia, Malaysia, or Germany, you should and you're recommended to try Ausmat. And this is because Ausmat actually has a separate pathway for Germany, and it's pretty easy to get into Malaysian institutions. But if you are looking to go somewhere further, like in the US or to the UK, you might want to consider taking A-levels instead. Okay, that is all for this video. I hope that this video has been very informative for all of you. If you guys would like more input about this course from other people, then do watch part 2. See you guys next video. Bye bye. Chip chip.